At this point, most of you have probably seen scientific notation either in math class or maybe another science class. So I'm just going to do a quick review of scientific notation, and then actually most of this is going to be showing you some ways to put scientific notation into your calculator to help you get accurate answers. So, oh look, you can kind of see a preview underneath. How exciting. Just remember, scientific notation is a way to write really big or really small numbers in a little clearer way. Rather than having all these zeros before or all these zeros afterwards that are just placeholders, we can use this scientific notation, which always has the same structure. It's going to have a number and then times 10 to some exponent. I like to remember that big numbers, so numbers greater than 1 in this case, have big exponents, and by big I mean positive, where little numbers, anything less than 1, so 0.0 something, have little exponents, which really just means negative exponents. To figure out the number that goes in front of that, you're going to take the decimal, which right here is hidden at the end, and move it so that there's only one number in front of it. So I'm moving it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So I end up with 2.36 times 10 to the, since I moved it 6 times, that is a 6. Since this was a big number, it's a positive 6. Same story down here with the little numbers, it's just I'm going the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4. I need to stop here. If I go further, I'm going to have 2 numbers in front of the decimal place. That's a no-go. So this is 8.2 times 10 to the 4th. However, since it was a tiny little number, it's the negative 4th. So negative little numbers, positive exponents on big numbers. So there's your little flash review on scientific notation. One more thing on a really common error I see. I just talked about this actually on the last page. One of these is wrong. Can you guess which one's wrong? This one, okay? It's got 2 numbers in front of the decimal place. That's a no-go. You need to move your decimal so that there's only one non-zero number in front of the decimal place, and then have that match accordingly. You see it a lot of times. It's just bad notation. It looks like you don't know what you're doing, and you don't want that. Okay, so why don't you try a couple here. I'll leave them on the screen for you for a moment, and then you can type your answers into the box that will pop up. And then I will check those for you. To go into standard notation, it's just kind of the opposite. I'll do the first one here for you. Look at the exponent. If it's negative, you know you're making a tiny number. Some people like to remember, like, go to the left or go to the right. Well, that always varies depending on if you're going into scientific notation or coming out of scientific notation. So it's easier for me, I guess, to remember the bigger the number, the bigger the exponent. The tiny little numbers have tiny exponents because they're negative numbers. So this is negative, which means it needs to make a tiny number. So if I went to the right, that would be like 3,000 or 300 something. I don't want that, so I'm going to have to go the other way. So 1, 2, put the dot, flop a little egg in the crate, or a 0. So that's 0.038. Good form will give you a leading 0 there as well, so you can keep track of that decimal. You try the other 2. Alright, the bigger issue I see with scientific notation in this class is using your calculator appropriately. And unfortunately, I don't own every calculator in the world, so I won't probably be able to get every single way. If you have a calculator that's not like any of the ones I show you today, please feel free to call me over and let me know, and I can try to figure it out with you. Basically, most calculators have some sort of shortcut that you can use for scientific notation. Yes, you could always literally type times 10 and then a little caret key and do your exponent to the, whatever power. That's fine too, but particularly if your calculator has an EE key, that's super slick. You're really going to want to learn how to use that. It just will prevent a lot of errors down the line. EXP key is also not too bad. Times 10 to the n, not as useful, but it's a little bit of a shortcut. Will speed you up. That's what's on our classroom calculators as well. Alright, so if you have these kind of basic graphing calculators, a lot of them are the same general look. The EE key is above, one key above the 7, and then it's in a different color. It's the second feature on this one. So to use it, I have to hit second, comma. So like if I wanted to do 3.07 times 10 to the 4th, I would do 3.07 second EE, so second comma 4th. If I hit enter, I can see it written out there. A lot of times you'll see that on your calculator, it'll actually come out. Here, if I do 3.07 times 10 to the 12, it's going to spit the answer back to me with an E in it. That's because it can't fit the whole thing in there. That E just means times 10 to that power. Okay, if you have a calculator like this, it's the same premise. The EE key is just above the x to the -1 in this one, but it's still 3.07 second EE to the 4th. You'll get the same thing there. Actually, if you're at home using your phone calculator, remember you won't be using that at school here. So I do want you to get practice with other calculators, but sometimes it's all you have. So if I could get my phone to turn, which I might not be able to. Helps if you unlock it, I suppose. Please hold. You know that if you, this is an iPhone, I guess, so it probably depends on the type of phone you have. With iPhones, if you turn, then you can get the scientific notation calculator or the scientific calculator. And there is an EE button right above random right now in the current update. I feel like it changes all the time. So it would be 3.07 EE button. Whoa, miss big thumbs. 3.07 E to the 4th. You can hit equals, and you should be getting that 30,700. So that's something to keep track of at home. The only thing I don't really like about this calculator is it doesn't show you what you've inputted, so you can't keep track of if you have an input error. Last one's the ones we have in here. If you have the EXP, it's the same thing. You're going to do 3.07 EXP to the 4th. Those ones are a little bit weird because in your calculator it will look like 3.07 and then like 4 will be up here. It'll almost look like it's to the 4th exponent. It's not. It's just a weird notation that happens with a lot of those EXP calculators. Realize that it's really trying to say 3.07 times 10 to the 4th. And now, sorry, back on the train. If you have this classroom one, there's that times 10 to the n key, third one down under the delete column. So 3.07 times 10 to the n to the 4th. And hit enter there. Okay. Now, why? When you write in scientific notation, if you use the EE key or the EXP key, your calculator reads that as a number in scientific notation. So it keeps it grouped together. However, if you don't use that, if you just type times 10 or whatever, or if you have a calculator that doesn't have an EE key like our classroom ones don't, you're going to get the wrong answer in some problems. And that all comes down to order of operations. You may remember that order of operations tells you to multiply and divide from left to right. So what that means is in this problem, if there was no parentheses, which is how I wrote it originally, first time I made this video before it didn't save. Very excited about that. It's like this, okay? So if I just type that in my calculator, I'm going to do that on this one just to kind of make my point, I guess. Times 10 to the 4th. I didn't even use the times 10 of the key. Divided by 6.02 times 10 to the -3rd. Oh, that brings up another good point. The negative is usually a different button than the minus. So like here's negative down here, here's minus. If you use minus, you're going to get a syntax error almost always. It's the same on like the TI family, all of those. You want to use a separate negative key. When I did this, I get 5 point, I'm going to round it to 1. I guess that's it, 5.099, blah, 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 blah. Alright, but what it's doing is it's taking 3.07 times 10 to the 4th, divided by 6.02, and then that whole thing times 10 to the -3rd. But I want it to take this whole quantity, the 6.02 times 10 to the -3rd, divide by that, not just divide by the 6.02. So if you're not using an EE key, you really need to be careful with your parentheses. It's good to get in the habit right now. It won't always affect it. If it was an adding problem, then it wouldn't go in the wrong order. But you gotta be careful when you have multiple divisions and addition, all that good stuff. So parentheses around your quantities in scientific notation. With these classroom ones, they'll have that little like darker box with the arrow in it. If you just put a parentheses there, you're gonna get a syntax error. Okay, you need to go over. Excuse me. An error over. Oh my goodness. There we go. Arrow over. Close it. Off you go. Okay, and now you can see the real answer to this one, which is like, what, over 5099667. So quite a bit of a difference there. Okay, oops, I guess I got these pages out of order. Don't need that anymore. Okay, last thing is a couple for you to try if you type your answers on the screen, and then I will check them for you. Thank you much.